whilst we wait for more people, I think we should start. So tonight's session will be taken by our very own Auntie Yang, as she can see. But please allow me to say a few more words about her. So, Auntie Inyang is a business administration graduate of Rivers State University of Science and Technology, an MBA in business management from Institute Business Lagos. She has over 35 years working experience. Her corporate working life has taken her through organizations like IBP, now Stanbic IBP, and Crusader Sterling Pensions, where she was pioneer head of marketing. She also worked within the Guarantee Trust at Under Asset Management Limited, a subsidiary of Guarantee Trust Assurance, now acting as the head of business development, managing high net worth individuals. She's an independent member of the investment committee 12 funds for RM Nigeria Asset Management Limited, which is a subsidiary Brand Merchant Bank. She's currently the managing partner and co-founder of Averti Professional Managers, an all-female agency. Also founder of Boombox platform, from where she facilitates and teaches on retirement planning. Fellow of the National of Marketing of Nigeria, NIMN, and a council member of the Learning and Development Network Federal. Welcome, Auntie Yang. Talking to us about planning for your warm winter years. So please, let's welcome her. Let's give her a round of applause. Drop it in the chat.
Okay. Can I go ahead, Bomo?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session. I would love to share my screen now, if it's okay with you. Okay. All right. Can we see my screen, I reckon?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we're talking this evening about how to plan ahead for our warm winter years, essentially our retirement years. And my talking points this evening will essentially be around the psychology of retirement, how to prepare, financial planning and investment decisions, how to do your budget check. We'll talk a bit about the Pension Reform Act, entrepreneurship in retirement, succession planning, wellness and healthy living, and then we would end with estate planning and legacy. Okay, so really, what is retirement planning? To me, it's just the process of laying the groundwork to be able to achieve a meaningful retirement, meaning that it's not something you should stumble into. You should have put, some groundwork in place to ensure that you are able to achieve what you set out to achieve. So by way of introduction, whilst, sometimes, I know the demography in Niger startups. I know it's difficult sometimes, to think about retirement planning when you are pretty young. But what I've found, and just research also has shown, that many retirees state that not saving and investing early is the most regretted, common, and costly mistake they made in their retirement planning. So obviously there's an advantage in starting pretty early. And what I would always counsel is to start as soon as you kick off your working life, right? So yes, there's a lot that revolves around money when we talk about retirement planning. But beyond the safety of your nest egg, that's what that is going to provide. I believe that your emotional readiness is essential to making this huge transition and to thrive while you're at it. So really, without emotional preparedness, a break in work routine would normally take its toll on the mind. And that is something, to consider. So sometimes we say that, I'll just go back a bit. Pardon me. Okay, so in terms of, we just even have to tweak our perspective too, because I find that when people retire, the conversation usually is, oh, I just retired from, and even if it's been 5 years. So there's a hanging on to where we are coming from. But I think that we should start putting our minds towards where we are going. So I think the conversation really is more about what or where you are retiring to than what you are retiring from. And when you have this sort of mindset, it helps you to find purpose, in your retirement life, because now it's not about the work defining you, but you having something that you yourself has embraced for yourself. So, and this is something that came to me some time ago. And when I say, people say, what do I mean? In retirement, you actually go from a who is who to a who are you. Like I said, our work defines many of us for so many years. And it's always easy to say, oh, I'm GM this, I'm the MD of this, I'm the founder of this, so and so. But by the time you retire and you don't have those roles defining you, I mean, you don't, your call card doesn't even say, give these strong brand names anymore. Because those are the things that usually announce you where you are going, right? I mean, I know this is, I can imagine now we're talking about Mr. Herbert Wigwe. I mean, I'm so gutted by this loss, right? But there's a lot, people talk about Access Bank, Access Bank, Access Bank, the university. But what about the man, Herbert? So in all of this, we must always define ourselves by who we are. And if we are not already doing that, I find that by the time we retire, when there's no strong brand name to announce us wherever it is we go to, because it's always easy to say, oh, I'm from so-and-so bank, I'm from this multinational, and okay, doors just fly open. But after those years end, who are you? And this is the time to start finding yourself and, defining who you are outside of what your job role says that you are, right? So in terms of embracing psychology, right, I believe that because for many people, this is just this time we come into, and I reckon that may not be the case for us, but who knows, and hopefully not. I find that, when that day comes, when the phone does not ring the way it used to, and there just happens to be silence around you, some people struggle quite a bit, and they don't then know how to start their day, because you have to have a plan. And the plan has to even include how you are going to structure your day. Because while you are working, whether it was in your business or as an employee somewhere, there was some structure that you thrived on, right? So it will be beneficial for you to have some type of structure to your day when you retire. Do you have a set meal time? When do you wake up? What are the routine activities you'll be involved in? When do you eat? When do you go to bed? So I usually just have this as an example that this is something that I carved out for my day as for a structured weekday in retirement. And I can't achieve this most days, but the days I do, I give myself a pat on the back. And this is really what I'm striving, to achieve most days. Having this set wake up time, I wake up, I have my devotion, my prayer time, I leave for the gym, I go to, like that. So it's a very interesting exercise to do, and it might reveal quite a lot about you, because I've found that, in workshops that, I run, people actually blank out. And, after I wake up at this time, I have my prayers, I do this, there's really no plan. They don't know how the rest of the day is going to go, outside of the fact that they're not now going to the office. So it's something, for us to consider. And of course, there's some questions that will be useful for us to ask ourselves, while we are contemplating, this season of life. How old am I now? When do I plan to retire? And it doesn't even have to be at this set age according to the Pension Reform Act, right? Maybe you want to retire at 45 or 50, whatever. Do I want to even retire? Because that's even another question. Am I psychologically ready to retire? And when I do, how do I want to spend my time? What will I be doing? And in that thing I'm doing, is it for passion or is it for living? Which, what I mean by that is for economical reasons. How will I handle not having to go to work? Because for some of us, I can imagine if you worked in a place, and that's not so common now. Some people had like 30-year careers in one organization. So you can imagine the trauma, of not having to go there anymore. How much will I miss the social contacts and friends at work? Because these are also people that we've grown used to. We see 5 days a week, most likely, if we're in the office 5 days a week. So when that ends, will I miss them? Have some of them turned into friends or whatever? How much income will I need? This is a very, very important conversation. Should I consider semi-retirement or even a second career? I personally am in my second career now. Maybe it's even the third, right? What impact will my retirement have on my family? Because it's not just a conversation for only you. It's something you have to sit your family down and have that conversation with them. Are they ready? Are there still financial commitments you have towards them? What are the extended family needs? And again, how many years can I expect to receive pension? If I've been saving all this while, can I assume, but really under the Pension Reform Act, yes, you can receive pension, but question, how much is the pension? So as one nears retirement, a lot of the conversation, yes, the money, the financial preparedness, how much have I been able to save? It's important. But the truth is, if we've done all of this right, and we have a good and strong financial plan in place, we've adjusted our portfolio for that season of life, so that part is pretty all mapped out. What I find is the last minute thought now is, and is rarely discussed, is the emotional side of this huge transition in life. And it's not to be taken lightly, right? Because most of us want comfort and security in retirement, but it just doesn't happen. You have to plan and commit, towards that plan. One of the things I recommend is first to paint the picture you want for yourself in retirement. What lifestyle are you looking at? This is where I want to live. This is how I want to live my life. I want to travel, so often every year. What is that picture? So paint that picture, frame it. Now estimate the resources you require to fund that lifestyle. Because if you don't have income sources that would back that plan, then obviously it's not going to work, right? So another thing you need to do is to downsize your debts, because the last thing you want to do is use your retirement funds to still be paying any debt, because usually it's a bit of a struggle to make that deliver on the lifestyle. So the last thing you want to do now is to still have debts you're paying. And of course, you need to calculate your likely retirement income. How much do you think is going to be coming your way? A very good exercise. And further down the line, I'll just share a little template with us that would help us do this. Consider basic investment principles, right? And I say this because how you invest is just as important as how much you invest, right? And by that, as a simple example, both of us can have, two people can have 100,000 each, but mine is applied differently in some other type of portfolio than another person's own is applied, and the outcome is different. So it's really important for you to know that how much you save is just as important as how you save. And plan where you will live, right? The recommendation here is that you start to downsize, as you approach retirement, because really most of us are retiring when we are empty nesters. So these huge houses and homes we built for ourselves are pretty empty. I'm in that stage now where I just downsize. I'm still suffering a bit of trauma. It's not that easy, let me admit, but it was a necessity, because really, what are you doing with a huge house, which is going to further drain your retirement income in terms of maintenance, cultivating your garden? You have to have a security man, and all those things, you don't have to have that anymore. Of course, like I said, prepare your spouse, prepare your children, prepare your family members. And I recommend that, you sit with your spouse over, a protracted period. Just keep talking about it so that you understand what each person is looking at, and you're able to marry, your goals towards retirement, so that you're not working, different agendas. Of course, as I always say, embrace the digital. The world we live now, and I know that in my generation, many retirees are struggling with this. And this is the world we live now, where, if you are traveling, you have to be digitally savvy. If you need hospital or medical help, you can access it from your home. Even gym, you can work out in your home, on Zoom. And that is the life we live now. So if you don't embrace the digital, it will be quite a struggle, in retirement, when you're a bit older and some things don't come so easily to you. Shopping, for example, being able to buy things online, those conveniences will not be available to you. Being able to book your flight, for example, remember that you may not have a PA anymore like you did when you were working, So, and then of course, create a financial plan and your budget check, right? So, dozens of factors would contribute to how enjoyable your retirement years are, but one of the most important is how long your money will last. And this is something that people, are a bit, concerned about. Okay, yes, I'm saving. How do I know when this money will run out? Because one of the assumptions we should not also make is, oh, I'm going to be old anyway, that maybe by 70, by whatever, I'm gone. And then God will surprise you with longevity, right? So what do you do? So experts say that you need at least 80% of your last working income to be able to maintain the same standard of living in retirement. So if, for example, you were earning 500,000 a month, so what that means is that you need 80% of 500,000 minimum to be able to maintain that sort of, standard of living, right? So we should, bear that in mind. Okay, so we want to talk a bit about, your retirement money. So I talked about it, a template that, we have, as I was going to share, and you can also just, put this on your Excel and, derive your own. But what you need to do here, right? Because what you're trying to do is to check whether what will be coming to you in retirement would cover the kind of expenses you anticipate that you're going to have in retirement. And it's not an exercise you do once. Remember, many of us are still many years ahead, towards retirement. So it's something that I recommend you do at least every year. You keep updating because things change. For example, how much you have in your retirement savings account if you are under the contributory pension scheme, right? Would you be getting any gratuity benefit payment from your employer? Is there inheritance? Do you have personal savings account, rent from property ownership, part-time employment, personal business, annuity, pension, equity from your business ownership or fixed income portfolio and all that? And okay, this I usually hesitate to put, but people say, no, why should my children support me in retirement? Okay, children financial support. So perhaps your children would also be giving you something, when you're in that season of life. Excellent. So what you need to do is be able to calculate all this, right? And you just keep updating year by year to see where you are. And then you stack it against what your likely expenses would be. Are you still paying mortgage? Hopefully not. Are you still paying rent? Hopefully not, but maybe you are. So that is part of the expenses you have to take into consideration. Your daily living expenses, phone, data, grocery, utility bills, entertainment, the whole gamut, feeding allowance, extended family, holiday expenses, really critical. Of course, community social responsibility, your residents association, you have to pay some money, children's school fees. If you don't have, if you're not an empty nester, you're still paying fees. Of course, religion offerings, your everything, auto insurance, medical. So when you are able to do this, what this does for you then is to give you a sense of how your expenses stack up against your income. What if you have a deficit? Then it is clear now that you either have to cut down on expenses. Okay, if maybe this is the time I want to tell myself that, oh, all these fancy groceries that I buy, I won't be doing that anymore. I don't know, but it's usually more difficult to do that, especially where we are in the country now. So the advice is just look at how you can augment your income to deliver more than you currently have. So once you have a positive, position, then you are great. And then, of course, this even makes it possible for you to still, add more to your investment portfolios if you're able to, manage this properly, right? So, okay. Now, for savings and investments, right? One of the key things you need to be attentive is make sure you have a diversified portfolio. And I say this because as you get older, as you get into the season of, earning less, what is most critical for you actually is how secure your investment is. So sometimes this is when your risk appetite is a lot lower, because what is more important is ensuring that you don't lose money. And you're not driven so much by, make, return on investment for everything. So, and I know that in the house we have experts, like Ola, and I would implore you to, take advantage of the resources we have within the Niger Startups. The Morning Wheat Club are excellent. It's an excellent platform for us to join that would, guide us, because it is not something you want to do by yourself since you are not an expert, right? Of course, real estate is an all-time good, all-time good. I would always say that. Personal development, I say this because when you are constantly upping your game, developing your skills, one, it exposes you to maybe opportunities for additional income, and it just, positions you to be a bit more, to be able to, how do I put it now? Access, some maybe board roles, being able to do some, moonlighting somewhere, and just also being more savvy about what is happening in the world, so you know how to position yourself. Of course, we should all have savings, because if you don't save, then you cannot invest, right? If you have a retirement savings account, under the current contributory pension scheme, and you can, I would advise that you also have an additional voluntary contribution account with that same PFA, right? Because if you have the ability to do more than you're doing under your, your retirement savings account, then you should do more. And so that's my counsel on that. And of course, everybody should have an emergency fund, and this is money that you need to have in an account that you can easily access in the event that you need cash, right? Different from your investment portfolios and all that. Yeah. Okay. Of course, medical care costs will likely be higher later in life. It stands to reason. I mean, as we get older, then of course, the body has served us for so many years. It starts to, creak in some places, as I'm discovering with mine. So, when you're working, most likely you're under an HMO, paid by your employer. Or even if you're the business owner, you probably have one in place. So the question now is, when you retire, will you still be able to access that if you own the business? And for people that are in employment, you would be out of, the HMO cover once you retire, when you step out of that employment. So what is your plan? There are quite a few PFAs now that have what they call senior plans. In fact, I was talking to the MD of AXA Mansard today because I don't know, of course I'm loyal. I just wanted to switch there, but they are not quite ready. But quite a number of HMOs have what they call senior plans, and you can key into that. And there you don't have, it's not about antenatal or any of those other things. It's about things that pertain to this stage in life, So there are quite a few that have senior plans. I mean, if you want to know some of them, I could help you after this. Of course, monitor your retirement savings account. Like I said, augment with an AVC, that's the additional voluntary contribution where necessary. And again, we have a resource within the Niger Startups, Money Counselors. If you want to know how your PFA is performing, and you should, because I find that two people can be on the same level within the same organizations, earning the exact same salary. But if one has their RSC with PFA, the other has their RSC with PFA, one of them could be doing better than the other. And thankfully, PenCom has allowed that you can now move your money to whichever PFA you want to. So I would implore you to, consult Money Counselors, go to their website, see what they are doing there, because they have a good thing they're doing, comparing all the PFAs, giving you, the ability to be more discerning about how your money is being managed. Yeah. Of course, under that same scheme to the contributory pension scheme, there's now a window for us to access residential mortgage. I hope most of us are aware by now, because this came about with the aim of improving the standard of living of RSU holders. So you can access 25% of the balance you have in your retirement savings account if you have more than 3 years to retirement. If you have less than 3 years, you are not eligible anymore. So if you go to the PenCom website, you'll be able to see the details, because I'm trying to catch up on time here. And of course, there's a micro pension scheme as well, which hasn't always been there. This came in 2019. So for people that, are sort of non-structured situations, they're not earning regularly, or they have less than 3 employees or whatever, you can also come under the scheme, under the micro pension scheme. It gives you an opportunity to access the same level of professional financial advisory that you can get, even if you are not working within a multinational and earning huge salary. So PenCom has brought that in, and it was a very commendable thing for me, because most of those people were locked out until this happened. So I just want to touch on entrepreneurship in retirement. Why? Because for those of us who have been in paid employment, entrepreneurship offers us an opportunity to stay active, when we stop working. Because really, if you retire at, say, 55, 60, you still have so much to give, right? And you can, start a business. Some of us, that's the time to now activate that passion that you had all this while that your, paid employment did not allow you to. So it helps you to stay active, to keep mentally alert, because you're constantly, solving problems, to pursue your passion. And this is where a banker can move into what? Confectionaries, because they've always wanted to bake, and being a banker did not allow them. So now you get the time to express yourself, right? And if properly managed, this can help you supplement your pension or income as well. And it's a good way of staying social. I'll tell you one thing though, loneliness is very real in older age. It is very real. So whatever you can do to make sure that you have opportunities to be social, have people around you to talk, it helps a lot, in keeping your mind, really occupied. And of course, for some people, it's one of the ways they have to give back to community. But while we are doing this, because whether you're working for somebody or working for yourself, that time should come when you want to step outside, the business. So it's important that you have put, succession planning in place. What you're trying to do here, you're trying to strive to minimize the negative effects that your exit will have on the company. And there are many ways you can go about this, but that is not a conversation for tonight. It's just to bring it to our attention. Of course, be very mindful of your wellness. There are different dimensions of wellness: spiritual, social, environmental, intellectual, physical, occupational. Be very mindful and make sure that you're staying rounded, in all your areas of wellness, because that is what makes your life, really wholesome. And in terms of your health, my word to you is eat light and eat right, right? Exercise as well. I can't say this enough, that intentional time you set aside to exercise helps to build, endurance, for your older age, help to strengthen your muscles. And it's one of the things you always need to look out for is do something that gets your heart pumping every day, right? We're rounding up now. So by way of additional tips, I will just warn that as we get older, we appear to be targets, to fraudsters, people that want to dupe us. So my advice, don't jump on any bandwagon. If an offer appears to be too good, then most likely it's too good to be true. So resist it. Be careful of internet scams. Don't shop with a reckless friend, because remember we said that we would always have a budget that guides us. So this is not the time to now go, if something wasn't in your budget, let's go to ShopRite, then you end up with an expense that you had not planned for. And I would say this, and if it's one of the few things you take away from here, please, I want you to be very, very intentional about teaching your children the value of money and teaching them life skills. Why? Some families have found themselves in a bit of a challenge and embarrassment in their older years, where children are now sponging off, the parents. If children don't understand the value of money, then they do not understand the, how do I put it, the dignity in work. I mean, disregard what is happening in the country right now. We should be those people that teach our children that there is dignity in work. And if you work with integrity, you would make money and you will live right, right? So please let's teach our children the value of money. There are seminars during the holidays, there are books, there are clubs for children, investment clubs and all that. Let's take advantage of those. Teach them life skills so that they can be independent and they are not depending on us in our older age. What we are finding right now for my generation is quite many of us are the boomerang generations. We didn't plan it, because we are now in that space where we are looking after older, aged parents, and we're also looking after, millennial children. And that wasn't the plan, but Nigeria sometimes, does not, allow people to get very independent on time. So you find that you have to assist, your children. But as we teach them life skills, it helps them to stand and be independent, quickly, so that we don't have that burden of looking after them. Of course, I can't say enough about estate planning and legacy, right? And I have a question, or I have some questions. If something happened to us, would anyone know the passwords to our bank accounts, to our email addresses? Do our spouses or whoever we regard as our next of kin know bank information? I mean, which banks do we have money? where are our assets, do we have a will? I mean, that safe we bought it and kept in the home. Other than ourselves, who else has a password to the safe? And, those documents, we bought land here, we bought land there, opportunities came. It's good. But one, other than you, would anybody else be able to wade through all those pile of documents? And as we get older, regardless of the opportunities that came our way, and we bought maybe property, land here and there, let's start to consolidate. Because what we also find is that if people die, I mean, you had this plot of land in Akonwojo, in Songotedo, in Ikorodu, the children don't have the tenacity, they don't have the grit to be running after any land in Ikorodu. So you have worked for nothing really, right? So consolidate. If you're going to now sell buy some property in Ikoyi, in Surulere, in wherever, but I mean, make it easier for them, right? So also plan to leave some type of inheritance if you can, to help your children get a head start on life, or to provide them with a safety net, not to, for them to live on, just to provide that safety net for them. And you could also create a legacy based on the nature of life you lived. For me, this is the most important. The memory people have of you and the good you did in their lives, right? And so the next generation will always take solace in remembering the quality of life you live, and that guides them. I think that would be the greater legacy here. And for me, I don't know if anybody else feels the same, but it's very important to invest in relationships, right? So for me, I cultivate relationships that fuel my passion and keep me learning, right? So I intentionally have a hub of younger people in my space. Yeah, shout out to Niger Startups. Thank you for being that hub in my life, but I really, really glean a lot from, just having younger people in my space, because I mean, how useful can other 65-year-olds be to me at this stage in my life? There's not much to learn from your older friends. And finally, face your fears and write your will if you haven't already, or set up a trust. And with that, I say thank you for listening to me.
Half of us here at Niger Startup, I say thank you. Thank you very much. That was very insightful, very, very insightful. I can see lots of claps and cheers going in the chat. Thank you. So just a quick recap, because you touched on so many things there. I think one of the most poignant ones was when you talked about consolidating assets, really, because I've had those conversations actually with my parents as well. I've been having those conversations. So thank you for putting that out. I have a question for the Q&A section. So the question is, say it's advice to invest, to go into investment in that retirement period. Say, you come across a lump sum of money, maybe when you left the organization you're working for, they paid you off, and you now have time, you've retired. Do you say investment is good, or just living off the money in bit?
That's a very interesting question. And I remember having this kind of conversation with someone, and the guy said, listen, I don't know how many more years I'm going to live, but I intend to rock this money. Yes, he came into some money, but it really depends on your lifestyle, right?
Okay.
So really, I mean, what would you even be doing? I mean, I'm 65 now, right? And I also know, just from watching people older than me, by the time I come into my 80s, even if I have the money to buy first class tickets to travel every month, I probably don't have the urge to, because I just couldn't be bothered. Do you understand? So really, it's up to the person. And if you feel you want to, set up something for your children, not a bad idea. But this guy was very emphatic that which children, let them to, so it depends on the person. I would be wise about that kind of money and not really go out of my way to do things I haven't always done.
Okay, thank you. Good reaction. So in the chat, we have people saying, thank you very much, Auntie Inyang and okay, please, we're now in the Q&A section. Feel free to raise your hand now and take questions. I saw a hand earlier. It went down again. I'd like to raise it. I think I missed two hand raised. Okay. So whilst we're waiting for that, there were some points as well that you raised. One was the tool that you dropped, the template for expenses. So if possible, maybe we can have some copy of that if it's okay, for the members to see and start getting. I think even having a budget, your personal, not even a retirement or just for day to day is even necessary. So that's
okay, that's fine.
That's
no
good.
problem at all.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And also, as you said, it's never too early to start thinking of retirement. I have never thought about it, but after this call, I'm definitely thinking about it. Okay, so we have a question in the chat from Precious, and she's asking, how easy is to process your RSA after retirement? There are doubts about retrieving it, so one want to be careful to top up. Please clarify.
Okay, so once you retire, right? Actually, even before you do, you approach your PFA. I'm going to retire in another 6 months. So you start, working towards that, documentation to be filled and all that. So that once you retire, you by law, you can access 25% of your RSA balance and no more. Some PFAs have been ingenious in terms of, looking for ways to help people, but I even feel that even for the retiree, it does not make sense for you want to access more than that, because the mind of the law was to ensure that you have something, no matter what, coming to you for the rest of your life, right? So, and even the 25%, I always counsel to, if you don't need to, don't. I mean, nothing says you have to access it, but if you want to, you can access it. And if you kick off the processing of your documentations on time, usually for most people, by the time they retire, within the month of retiring and they've gotten their letter of disengagement and all that, you can access your 25%.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that answers.
So I hope Precious is fine with that.
Yes, she's fine with that. Okay, we have a hand up from Aramide. Please go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Auntie Inyang. I just had a question around, so I know that you do this. Is this a service that you provide to people who are retiring? Or what kind of services do you provide? Because there's quite a few people who I've come across or met or have worked with who are at that stage where they need the guidance. So it would be good to know what kind of services you proffer.
Started contemplating, when they retire and what they need to do. So it's usually a very, how do I put it? It's very confidential, because there's a lot of frank talk required, and it's one-on-one. So we go through 1, 2, 3 sessions, and then you have takeaways to go and work on. And depending on how you're doing, if you need help, you come back. But within 6 months, the idea is to get you to a point where you are able to, be on the right path towards achieving your retirement goals.
Thank you so much. So they can contact the Bloom
The Bloom
Advisory.
Box platform, the
Boombox.
Bloom Box yes, platform at gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll just put it in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So do we have any question? Okay, this is your chance to ask yes a lot of questions. I mean, luckily we recorded the session, so make that available for community members as well to access. We understand that some not able to make. Okay, sorry, Aramide.
Sorry, we saw one of Auntie Inyang's friends and partners, Auntie Audrey, on, and I know sometimes they run sessions together. So wanted to ask her if she had any. I know Auntie Inyang won't mind because it's her best. So normally we wouldn't do that. To see if she had anything to also sort of share as a takeaway for us. We're very pleased to have her on today.
Paramide, you're extremely mischievous. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I can't do my video now. I'm in the middle of house cleaning. So, when you're in the abroad, you are running solo. All right. So the thing that I wanted to touch on was around will writing. As Inyang knows, I'm sure every time she starts talking of estate planning, she sees my face in her mind, right?
I know.
That we are never too young to write our wills, and we are never too asset incapacitated, so to speak, to write that, which means that we always have something that is worth thinking through and articulating how we want it to be dealt with. In our "it's not my portion" culture, many times we don't want to have that conversation. For those of us who are spiritual people too, sometimes we just want to hang on to I shall not die, but I shall live, in which case I want to promise you that you shall die for sure, just maybe not today. And we owe it to our loved ones the responsibility of not leaving them having to grapple when we're gone. So that's really important. For those who have children, I think more than any other person, for a man, and I say this carefully, but the reality is that not every marriage is in a good place. However, it's not about your relationship with your spouse. It's about the children and dependents that you want to be sure you are responsible to. So to me, writing a will is actually also an act of love. Many times we because we are strong, we are healthy, we are busy, we know somewhere at the back of our minds that we need to, figure out what should happen to what, who should get what, who should administer this for me, and so on, but we never actually do that. So I want to encourage us to please, if you haven't already, let it be like your tomorrow priority, right? Let it be your tomorrow priority. We've had situations where even as simple as next of kin, go and check your next of kin documentation. The last place you filled it might have been your former boyfriend or girlfriend that is still registered there. So those kinds of things that you just have to get to an age and start clearing up. It doesn't mean you're going to die. God will fulfill the number of our days. He is God, not us, but at least the responsibility to do something. So that's just what I wanted to add, that you can't keep hearing about it and not actually doing anything. If you've ever experienced the reality of where someone dies interstate and the mess that happens, then please don't be that person. To the women or to the men, I would say, if your wife asks you to write a will, it doesn't mean she wants you to die. Funny enough, we still hear that a lot, even from well-educated people. And for the women, I would say, please don't assume that will writing is about the man, because I'm sure you have some assets as well. And as you're writing your will, don't write your husband out of it. Yeah? Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Aramide.
Thank you so much, Auntie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I think we can safely say come to the end of this webinar session. Double check that. Okay. Please, Auntie, if you have time for one more question, it's from ask, or they're asking, sorry, can you please share a bit more about trusts versus wills? Is it an either or situation, or should one have both?
Okay, I'm gonna have Audrey, speak to that since, so that she takes it on from where she stopped. Audrey?
Okay, so I was typing a private message to Aramide. Should you have a will or a trust? I would always recommend, I think it depends on a few things. It depends on how asset rich you are, right? What kind of wealth dimensions you're operating at. It depends on your family dynamics too. If you are maybe in a blended family, or it's not blended, but even among siblings, there's, we face some of these realities, right? Life is not all a bag of chocolate chip cookies. So sometimes the reality is hard. The difference, particularly with a trust, is that you cannot contest a trust because all the assets are owned by the trust. But a will can be contested, right? Somebody can say, no, you did juju for the person, or no, they were not in sound mind, or no, this is not even the original will, or like I saw another one. I mean, you can just get into really complicated conversations. I heard one recently, and I'll just share that quickly, where apparently the woman had bought land in Surulere in those good old days where Surulere was like GRA. And then over time, Banana Island, she was one of those very first people that paid for water. Now, a son and a daughter, right, left behind several decades later. And she had left Surulere to the son because she believed that was the prime property, and left the banana little investment to the daughter. Now the son has sued the daughter, saying he's the older one, he's supposed to have gotten that, and they're both fighting in court. Same siblings, same. So, I mean, you hear a lot of interesting things, right? So the issue is that depending on what is at stake, you really want to think about a trust. And the thing with trust too, I mean, you can read up a lot about it, is that you can set up a living trust. And it can even be a revocable. There's revocable ones, there's irrevocable. So if you think you might change your mind in future, it can be revocable. And the fact that it's living means that, sorry, that's my dishwasher. Sorry for the noise. The fact that it's a living trust means that you can be the beneficiary, you can give instructions in your lifetime. So for instance, I have my assets in a trust. For the companies I'm invested in, I control the dividends. The trust is the shareholder, but they have to pay me the dividends in my lifetime, right? So I determine what portion I can leave in the trust as a trust asset and what portion I want them to give me. But all my assets are owned by my trust. So if you want to contest, maybe at best you'll be contesting my, what do they call it, my RSA benefits, but everything else. So depending on where you are, and please don't have, the thing with estate planning is one of those things where you kind of want to wear a worst case scenario thinking. All right, I know you're very close to your siblings, but just imagine one family quarrel that scatters that. What kind of problem could come up? All right, just imagine that. So those are the kinds of things, and what you are thinking is, what do I need to put in place such that, let's say something goes wrong, at least the structure I leave behind will not enable quarreling and all those things, right? Even if it doesn't exist, reality is that life can look like a really bad African magic movie, and you have to be able to think about those kinds of things and make sure you hedge against them, and a trust is better for that. Thanks.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you very much. Some of us, maybe most of us, have experienced something like that, and don't think it's happened, in your family, but if anything can happen. Referring to disagreements when it comes to sharing the assets. As a follow-on, I think to that question, someone asking, what about authorization? Sorry, I read about this months ago when I lost a close friend. It took too long to get hold of assets just because his wife was not signatory and not authorized.
Audrey,
Please,
you have to finish what you started.
This is your session, ma'am.
You have to finish what you started.
Okay, so yes, and thank you for this comment. It just shows the reality. And that's why I was saying that we have to be able to think about some of the worst case things that happen and not think about, oh, I don't get on well with my husband or with my, there are some of those things that create complications. Sometimes you see men who have assets their wife doesn't know about because they say if she knows she will control you, or things like that, or women who are hiding assets. It really doesn't make sense. What you want to do if you're thinking about writing a will or creating a trust is now to think about what are you putting on ground in terms of who can have access if anything happens, right? So let me even start first. Let me go back a bit and talk about bank accounts, for instance. A lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between being a signatory to your spouse's account and being a joint account holder. If you're just a signatory, the minute the person dies, you can't touch the account anymore because the main account holder is gone. And so that, erodes a lot of things. But if you're a joint signatory, then it changes the dynamics as well, except if you've left specific instructions with your banks in the event of your demise. There is something called a letter of wishes. So when you write a will, for instance, you are advised by your lawyers, or you should be advised by them, to write to the executors that you have nominated, write the letter of wishes. And that letter of wishes, what it is that, as you know, the will is typically read after the funeral, typically. However, there may have been some things within the will that you would have wanted done. For instance, you could have said, all the money, or I have this 10 million naira in my Access Bank account or a fixed deposit, that money should be released to my wife or my husband for my funeral, right? If you have something like that and they're running around looking for money to bury you, only to find out after the burial you had made provision. So a letter of wishes just kind of goes into your will and pulls out some key provisions that are relevant before the reading of the will and notifies both your lawyers and your executors that these are the things that should happen before the formal reading. All right. And that's the place where some of those authorizations can also come in. And then it's really just thinking about, like I said, issues around who you've put as your next of kin and stuff like that. A lot of people are still putting, it's my brother. A lot of men put their brothers or their mothers, and you create a problem for your wife. A lot of women is their sister or a friend or their 2-year-old child who cannot even give any instruction, right? And then you complicate issues. So just things to think about. Yeah. But again, these are things it's better you sit down with a lawyer, you look at the entire ramifications based on your situation, and then you must edit your will every year. Put something like a birthday anniversary, or just say every time you acquire an asset, you will update your will, right? So that nothing is left out. We just never know. All right. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Auntie Audrey. It helps very much, and I think it answered the question. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask Auntie Inyang for final words. If you'd like to share.
All right, thank you, Bomo. I mean, I think this has been very interesting session, even for me, that was the speaker. I just want to implore all of us to take this serious. It's never too early to plan for your retirement. Actually, the more time you have, the better you are able to achieve, the goals you've set for yourself. So let's start right away if we don't have anything in place yet. And like I said, we have some great resources in the house that we can take advantage of, to help us with knowledge in this area. So, and thanks for having me, Bomo and Aramide. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. For big thanks from all of us here at Niger. It's grateful. We look forward to more sessions, more webinars like this. Come and speak. Have lots of thanks in the comments. Lots of people clapping. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, and it's a wrap. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auntie Yang. Thank you, Auntie Audrey. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bomo and team.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.